Psychological horror. Psychological horror is a type of horror that focuses on the mind. Instead of using monsters or gore, it scares you by showing characters dealing with fear, stress, or mental breakdowns. These stories often include mystery, suspense, and characters who might be losing their grip on reality. The goal is to make you feel disturbed, tense, and uneasy, like something's not quite right, even if you can't see it. Let's look at a few of the key subgenres that fall under this unsettling category. Phobia horror. This one focuses on fears that push people to their limits. These movies often trap their characters in terrifying situations like claustrophobia or extreme isolation. Even if they survive, the cost is usually devastating. Movies like It and Anaconda capture this fear perfectly. Madness horror. Shifting from fear of the outside world to fear of the mind itself, madness horror is all about a slow breakdown of the mind. The terror comes from watching characters question their own perception of reality, whether it's due to trauma, mental illness, or pure psychopathy. This subgenre often crosses over with slashers, but instead of focusing on the kills, it dives into what drives the killer. Classic examples include The Shining, Jacob's Ladder, and In the Black Swan. Home invasion horror. Now take that fear and place it somewhere that's supposed to feel safe, your home. This subgenre is all about the terror of being hunted inside what should be a place of comfort. Usually featuring a lone woman or a small group, these movies build suspense by making the victims feel completely vulnerable while masked attackers lurk nearby. Unlike slashers, these films focus more on stalking than outright killing. The fear is heightened because the villains don't reveal themselves until later in the story. Examples of this chilling subgenre include The Strangers, The Purge, and Funny Games. Art house horror. Then we have art house horror, also known as elevated horror. This subgenre shifts the focus away from cheap thrills and toward deep psychological themes and powerful visuals. These films often break traditional storytelling rules, using atmosphere and symbolism to build dread. Some are straightforward, while others are layered with hidden meanings, but they all aim to create a haunting, unforgettable experience. Movies like Under the Skin, Climax, and Mandy fall into this category. Killer horror. This type of horror is all about the fear of being hunted. The killer, whether human or something else, won't stop. They're brutal, relentless, and they're usually after one thing: blood. These movies focus on the chase, the suspense, and the sheer terror of trying to escape someone who's made you their target. This category breaks down into several chilling branches, such as slasher horror. This is one of the most popular horror subgenres. It usually involves a masked or monstrous killer, sometimes supernatural, hunting down a group of people, often teenagers. The kills are creative, bloody, and sometimes darkly entertaining. It also gave us the famous Final Girl idea, where one strong female character is the last survivor who faces off against the killer. Some standout examples include Friday the 13th, Child's Play, Candyman, Scream, and Happy Death Day. Backwoods horror. Backwoods horrors are easy to define. They're simply slasher films that are set in forests, woodlands, or rural locations that are affected by rural poverty. Oftentimes, city slickers traveling through rural territory run into the country folk, who eventually hunt the city slickers down in a grisly manner. They include the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Hills Have Eyes, and Wrong Turn. Gore. Gore in horror simply means lots of blood, guts, and graphic violence. It shows injuries, body parts, and messy deaths in full detail. Nothing is hidden. The goal is to shock or disturb the viewer by being as brutal and realistic as possible. It's the kind of horror that makes you squirm. There are multiple takes on this kind of horror, including torture. Also known as torture porn, this subgenre shows extreme violence with graphic scenes of torture and mutilation. The focus is on the pain and suffering, often caused by a villain who doesn't even have a clear reason or motive. It's all about pushing the limits of what the audience can handle, giving them a mix of shock, discomfort, and even strange satisfaction through the gore and brutality. Some of the most well-known examples are Saw, Hostel, and The Devil's Rejects. Cannibal. This subgenre uses cannibalism mainly for shock value. The violence is often very realistic and graphic, and some films even include actual cruelty to animals, which makes them hard to watch. That extreme content is often what these movies are known for, and what draws people in. Because of this, the subgenre has a bad reputation and is often seen as taboo. These movies rarely make it into the mainstream. However, films like Eli Roth's The Green Inferno and Julia Ducournau's Raw helped bring cannibal horror back into the spotlight. Famous examples include Cannibal Holocaust, The Green Inferno, and Raw. Extreme. This subgenre pushes horror to its absolute limits. It features the most graphic and disturbing content, including gore, mutilation, and even cannibalism, shown in full detail. These films often go beyond traditional storytelling, focusing on more shock and brutality than on plot or character. Because of how taboo and violent they are, many extreme horror films have been banned in certain countries. They're made for hardcore horror fans who want to test their limits. If you think you can handle it, some infamous examples include Thriller, A Cruel Picture, Ichi the Killer, and a Serbian film. Monster. Monster horror is all about facing creatures that are bigger, scarier, and deadlier than anything we can handle. These monsters can be anything from zombies, vampires, werewolves, aliens, or completely made-up beasts. Sometimes they come from ancient legends. Other times they're the result of science gone wrong. But the idea is always the same. A powerful creature threatens human life, and survival becomes the only goal. What makes monster horror so fun and terrifying is that the threat usually feels unstoppable. You can't reason it, you can't hide from it, and killing it? That'll be a long shot. There are a few key variations of this style, including zombies. Zombies have become one of the most popular creatures in horror, and that's largely thanks to filmmaker George A. Romero, who helped make them famous. These are the undead, people who have died but come back with no mind, no soul, and usually just one goal: to feed on the living. They move in groups, they spread infection fast, and they don't stop until you're one of them. What makes zombies scary isn't just how they look, it's what they represent. They tap into our deepest fears: disease, death, losing control, and being overwhelmed. And zombie stories aren't new. They've appeared in legends and folklore from all around the world. Some of the most iconic zombie movies to check out include Night of the Living Dead, Train to Busan, and 28 Days Later. Virus. Viruses and zombies often go hand in hand, but not always. Some virus-based horror movies don't involve the dead rising at all. Instead, infected people might still have control of themselves until the virus completely takes over. Some great examples of virus horror films are The Crazies, Pontypool, and Mayhem. Vampire. Long before zombies or any other monster took over horror, vampires were the stars of the genre. These are creatures that look human but live off of one thing: blood. Every vampire story plays by its own rules. Some can walk in sunlight, some can't. Some turn into bats, others don't. But one thing is always true: they need to feed to survive, and that usually means hunting humans. If the only vampire you know is Dracula, there's a lot more out there to explore. Movies and shows like Let the Right One In, Blade, and Midnight Mass show how different and deeply creepy vampire stories can be. Werewolf. Werewolves don't get as much attention in horror as vampires do, and many werewolf films haven't been well received. But these creatures offer a lot of storytelling potential, especially when it comes to themes of transformation and identity. Plus, their transformation scenes give special effects artists a chance to shine. Some memorable werewolf films are like Teen Wolf, The Wolfman, and Howl. Classic and mythological. This type of horror is inspired by myths and legends that have been told for generations. These stories tap into childhood fears, making us wonder what might be lurking in the dark. Some standout movies in this category include The Ritual, La Llorona, and Krampus. Neo-monsters. Neo-monsters are all the weird, wildly, and totally unique creatures that don't fit into the usual monster categories like zombies, vampires, or werewolves. These are the oddballs, the ones with strange shapes, bizarre powers, or origins that are hard to explain. You'll often find these monsters in B-movies, where creativity runs wild and anything goes. But thanks to modern CGI, these strange creatures have also made their way into big mainstream horror films. They might come from another world, be born from experiments gone wrong, or just show up out of nowhere. Either way, they're terrifying. Some great examples of neo-monster horror include A Quiet Place, with its sound-sensitive alien hunters, Pumpkinhead, a revenge-driven demon, and even Stranger Things, which introduced us to the creepy Demogorgon and other nightmare fuel. Giant creatures. Giant creature horror is similar to nature horror, but the monsters here are massive, often the result of radiation or genetic mutation. These films usually carry a deeper message about nature striking back. Some of the most famous giant creature movies include Godzilla, King Kong, and Crawl. Sci-fi and aliens. Sci-fi horror mixes science fiction with fear of the unknown. It usually starts with humans messing with things they don't fully understand, whether it's a new experiment, alien life, or strange technology. And when they cross that line, things go very, very wrong. The horror can happen on Earth, deep in space, or even inside a lab. But no matter where it takes place, the danger feels huge, something beyond human control or understanding. Some of the best sci-fi horror examples are Alien, with its terrifying extraterrestrial creature, Nope, which turns a UFO story into something much darker, and Prey, where an advanced alien hunter stalks its prey on Earth. Paranormal. Paranormal horror is all about the things we can't explain, like ghosts, spirits, demons, and other supernatural forces that don't follow the rules of the natural world. These are the stories where something invisible moves objects, whispers in the dark, and makes you feel like you're never really alone. This subgenre taps into deep fears like death, the afterlife, and the unknown. Paranormal horror usually builds slow tension and creepy atmosphere. These stories make you question reality, sanity, and what might be lurking just out of sight. They're filled with hauntings, possessions, and curses, and the horror often follows the characters no matter where they go. There are multiple takes on this kind of horror, including ghosts and spirits. This subgenre is another one that's self-explanatory. In horror cinema, ghosts and spirits are often the souls of dead people who have unfinished business or seek revenge. If you think you're not scared of ghosts, check out Ghost Ship, Poltergeist, or 13 Ghosts. Haunted house. You can't have a ghost movie without a haunted house. As the name suggests, this subgenre focuses on the location more than the ghosts themselves. The plot usually revolves around a group of brave newcomers who enter a haunted house. Some of the best haunted house movies include the Amityville Horror, Beetlejuice, and The Grudge. Possession. This subgenre is categorized by someone or something being possessed by a spirit. The spirit can be good or bad, but this is horror, so most of the time we'll get a hostile spirit to keep the audience on edge. Sometimes, humans don't have to be the ones that get possessed. Some of my favorite horror films include inanimate objects coming to life to kill. They include The Exorcist, Oculus, and Possession. Devils, demons, and hell. In most possession movies, the devil himself rarely takes control of a human body. But when he does, things get way more intense. Usually, demons and smaller evil spirits do the dirty work for him, causing chaos without even needing to possess anyone. Sometimes, just their presence is enough to bring death and destruction. Some of the well-known movies that dive into this theme include The Omen, Devil, and To the Devil a Daughter. Supernatural power. Horror movies that focus on supernatural abilities often revolve around a teenager or child discovering they have uncontrollable powers. Before they fully understand their abilities, things tend to go horribly wrong, usually ending in a violent showdown when the main characters use their powers to take revenge on those who wronged them. Some classic examples of this are Firestarter, Carrie, and Seconds Apart. Horror comedy. Comedy horror plays in both the comedy and the horror genres, which thrive well together. Comedy often comes from watching someone else suffer in amusing ways, and the setup for a joke is often the same setup for a satisfying kill. The characters can be cute or playful more than frightening, yet they are maleficent creatures who cannot be trusted. Some classic horror comedies include Shaun of the Dead, Jennifer's Body, Eating Raoul. Parody horror. Parody horror is a child of comedy horror but has a twist to it. Parody horror is almost self-explanatory. It pokes fun at horror franchises or tropes. Some parody horror movies almost mimic the plot of the films they are parodying, or they may have their own unique plots while leaning heavily on horror movie stereotypes. A few good examples include What We Do in the Shadows, Scary Movie, and The Cabin in the Woods. Gothic horror. Gothic horror takes inspiration from classic Gothic literature, blending dark romance, sorrow, and eerie supernatural elements. These movies often have a haunting atmosphere that lingers throughout the story. Some well-known examples of Gothic horror include Sleepy Hollow, Crimson Peak, and Interview with the Vampire, where the mix of love, tragedy, and horror creates a unique and chilling experience. Found footage. While found footage is more of a filming technique, it became so popular in horror during the 2010s that it essentially became its own subgenre. These movies usually involve characters filming each other or using GoPros, creating a raw, shaky camera effect that makes everything feel more chaotic and real. The style plays with perspective, making the horror feel even more immersive. Some of the best-known found footage films include Deadstream, Cloverfield, and REC, all of which use this technique to heighten the fear factor. Post-apocalyptic. Post-apocalyptic horror takes place in worlds that have already fallen apart, whether due to nuclear war, pandemics, or other catastrophic events. These films focus on survival in harsh, lawless landscapes where humanity struggles to hold on. Some gripping examples of post-apocalyptic horror include Doomsday, Bird Box, and Daybreak, where the fight to stay alive in a ruined world takes center stage. And that's every horror subgenre in a nutshell. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe for more horror deep dives, and drop your favorite subgenre in the comments.